criticism and defensiveness are massively important. And the difference between, because one of the questions that raises for me, if I saw that, is I would wonder, yeah, but aren't there things that I need to critique, or aren't there things I need to bring to my spouses or my, my fiancés or my boyfriend, girlfriends to their attention? Is that criticism? And I would say no. There are some things that are worth, for lack of a better word, I want to say complain. Complaining though is like, and I'm not sure that's the good word either for it, because complaint has a real negative connotation. There's some things you need to address, and that's behavior. So you should address behavior. You continue to show up late whenever you've said you told, our son that you were going to do that, you'd never follow through. You said that you weren't going to spend that. I thought we made it agree. You didn't. That's legit. Like, that's a behavior. Criticism is very different. Criticism is when you go, you never, you always. It's about the person. You're tearing down the character of the person. Those are two very different things.
It sounds like it might sound like that's superficial stuff, but it really is really as simple as like the lashing out at the person. They feel that, and it just changing the verbiage can really change how a person receives that, right?
100%. I mean, if you're tearing down the other person and their character, I fundamentally I don't know what ground I'm standing on with you anymore. Mm-hmm. And your spouse or your significant other, your boyfriend, girlfriend, they should be the safest place for you. When you start tearing down who they are, I start questioning my own sense of safety with you.
And by the way, I should mention that John Gottman, that, by the way, he is a secular researcher. So when you go perusing John Gottman stuff, just know that he works with couples that, all walks of life, So
yeah, and it's interesting too, like how you hear those statements, like I think also affects then like how you then respond to them. And so I'd say this is one probably in particular that Kevin and I have had to work through, but not like Kevin doesn't have a mean bone in his body, but I get defensive when he shares statements like that. And so whether it's like something that might seem trivial, whether it's like the dishes or laundry or whatever, like I'll be the first to admit, like he does a great job keeping our household afloat when it comes to a lot of those things. And so even like early in our marriage, there are some times now where it's like, hey, Joanna, it would be really great if blah, 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 blah. And the way I hear that is like, oh my gosh, Kevin thinks I'm not doing enough. He thinks that like I'm a terrible person. And so I think too, like we've had to have conversations where he's had to say, hey, when I say this, this is like,
that's good,
just how it feels. And then I'm hearing like, oh my gosh, like, so, fill in the blank, whatever, with whatever like way that your brain then hears.
Which leads to defensiveness.
Right, exactly. Then it's like, well, then do you not see all the other things I do?
Right, right. Yeah.
And so I think that's one of the ones that like we've definitely had to work through. Again, back to communication, to hear each other well.
Yep.
And ask more questions or,
And not rushing to defensiveness, because the other thing is, so many times we turn a benign comment into an attack. But at the same token, sometimes we try to attack with benign comments. So we have to be careful because, like, you might be trying to hurt your spouse by those little jabs, those little sarcastic comments, those little critiques. Don't do that. Like, don't do that. And it's so divisive. It is so hurtful. And that's death by 1,000 paper cuts. It may not be infidelity that ends your marriage. It might be those little sarcastic comments of like, oh, you're still on the couch. I see the dishes are still in the sink.
Dude, Chad, I'm so with you on this. And I'm glad you're saying this. There's a proverb that says, what does it say? I'm going to summarize it. Put it in the show notes. Show notes.
I'll do it.
But I'll paraphrase it. It basically says, only a fool makes a critical comment and then says, I was only joking. And there's a principle there. Like sometimes those things, they're hidden. If you can get rid of the sarcasm in your home, the cynicism, all that, in my opinion, you should make that a goal. The joking. I don't know. You should have freedom to be, freedom to kind of relate. But I don't know. I mean, like how many times does that stuff get misinterpreted? So why even play on those lines? And it's like, it's not a law. I mean, it's just, my advice would be to, and that doesn't mean that I don't, Jenny and I don't slip into that every now and then. We certainly do.
Yeah.
But we usually, we catch it now and try to.
Yeah.
But what did you just say? Those examples, like you just said, oh, you're still on the couch.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. That stuff stings, man.
Yeah.
And there's stuff behind it. And if our kids see us doing that to each other, I don't know, man. That's, so you can make a choice to just not do that.
It dissolves. It's like rust. It dissolves at the foundation of the marriage.
Yeah.
I'm going to give a resource here for this one is it's unfortunately gotten parodied a lot, but there's a book called Fireproof that there was a movie about, and that's why a lot of the parody comes from. But the actual book Fireproof is this love dare, or I'm sorry, I think the actual book is Love Dare, and it came out with a movie called Fireproof. But in this, it's like 30 days of things that you do secretly to kind of show your spouse love. And kind of restore marriage. And so I decided to do this, and what I was blown away by was like the first 5 days. You know what the big dare was say nothing negative to your spouse. It was it. That, like, I was like, buy gifts, wine and cheese, flowers, poems, sonnets, nope. First 5 days, it was like, and today, say nothing negative, no sarcastic comments, no nothing to your spouse. Here's what I did. I did that for 5-6 days. And what blew me away was after 3 days, there was a couple things. Like I ran over a speed bump or Steph ran over a speed bump, and I was going to be like,
Mm-hmm.
I was going to say something and then I didn't. And then there was something else. But after 3 or 4 days, she stopped too. She didn't even know I was reading the book. She didn't. She had
and a
no
lot of
idea.
those things are just jokey little things, right? They're not.
But as
egregious.
I became patient, as I stopped saying those things, she just in kind did it because that was the temperature of the water had been set by me.
Yeah.
So I'll put that book in the show notes, but it's a great resource.
The way you change a culture in an organization, the way you change a culture in your home, and if you want to think about it in those kinds of terms in relationships, is you behave your way into those cultures. This is exactly what you're talking about, Chad. I love that. You just start doing the thing that you have a vision for, that you want your home to be, you want your marriage to be, you want your relationships to be, and you start doing that. You start acting in those ways, and it will attract the people around you that hold those same values. If you're in a marriage, you're already sort of in those relationships, and so you begin to call out the best in them too. I love that.